So I just did a video on the Improv Boost about Leadership 101. It's the first class in the course. I'm trying to minimize my screen wobbling so much. That's easy. It's the first class in my course, Leadership 101. And then these ideas are what we're going to talk about with the three instructors that we have. And then I have a surprise at the end. If you filled a survey, you're going to get access to another course, another class, which is hopefully by someone who's like literally trained in leadership. So I'm really excited about that. That all works out. That all works out. But something that's really been, I've opened my eyes in the last 2 days, honestly. This is one of the reasons I wanted to do video now, is why do we make it hard on ourselves? And I have to say that this video is really focused at myself. One of the things I typically do, and I think I know why I do it. Anyways, one of the things I typically do is once I become a big fish in a small pond, I leave. Okay. Which means like if I get a lot of success somewhere, I'm like, okay, next, and I move on to the next thing. Okay. Now, you might look at this altruistically and go, that's really good because then you're not wallowing in your ego and you're not becoming a destructive member of a community or whatever it is. You might say like, oh, good, because you're always humble, right? Here's why it's actually really bad. Okay. It's really bad because I'm constantly in this mind frame of the underdog. And maybe that's kind of why I do it. I'm always this mind frame of like, okay, I'm successful here. Now I'm going to move to where I'm a small fish in a big pond again. And I'm constantly growing as a fish. Like I'm constantly growing as a fish in these different ponds. This metaphor might get lost a little bit, but it's because then I constantly feel like I am not the victim, but that I constantly feel like I'm doing an uphill battle, right? Instead of at some point being on top and being a giving leader or being the example of a leader that I want to see in the world, right? So that's why it's bad. The second thing is once I've achieved success, I'm not enjoying the success. I'm moving on to the next thing, which gives me like a great sense of, I guess it depresses me a lot of times because I feel like, why am I not where I want to be? It's because at some point I did fight for that and I got it and I left it so quickly that I didn't go, this is what happiness and success feels like. I moved on to the next thing to where I'm struggling again, right? So I think so it's not really good. So why do I make it? That's why I make it difficult on myself. So here's the two, and I assume, I'm sorry, this is my journal, so I'm gonna say whatever I want to be honest. This is like the really valuable information for anyone that's watching this. This is what I think is really valuable. Go to where you're successful. Go to those nodes where you're doing very well, acknowledge them as a strength and expand on them as a strength. I think what I usually do is I find a strength and then move on to look for another strength. And I leave that strength behind, making it a weakness or making it forgotten. Right? So here's where I say that is I have a large online presence on Facebook, right? And here I'm on YouTube, and I thought I want to have a presence on YouTube, so I'm going to go to YouTube, right? Because I wanted to diversify my presence on the whole overall, on the internet, on the interwebs, because there is a logic to that. There are people that have preferred social media. There's some people that only have a Twitter page. There's someone I love who only has a Twitter page. There's some people that just enjoy Instagram better. There's just different ways. And so if I diversify my presence, if I diversify my message, hopefully I hit a larger market. That's why I wanted to do it. And I also know that the younger generations who use YouTube, like I use Netflix, that's where they watch everything is on YouTube. So I possibly could tap into that market, right? And just at least get to know that market, right? But here I'm on YouTube trying to do these videos, something new. Once again, here I am, a small fish in a big pond. I only have 90 followers. If you go to Facebook, I have 50,000 followers. If you go to Twitter, I have 26,000 followers. So why am I focusing on YouTube? And I told you why, because I want to diversify and all that sort of stuff. But what I learned literally last night, was I was trying to figure out the software in Facebook. And so I went on my personal page because I knew like it's my personal page. It's not like my public brand. It's going to be all my friends and family and everything. And I just started playing around. I just started riffing, started doing stupid stuff on there, and I got a lot of attention, and it was really fun, and it was super interactive, and it was really neat. And it's so strange to me because after that, like I was pumped and I had people messaging me. That was so fun. And I'm like, why am I going to YouTube to try to begin this whole new thread when I should go to where I'm strong and continue it up and start expanding and capitalizing on that? Why don't I do that, right? So I've been thinking I'm going to continue doing these YouTube videos, partly because this is my personal diary. This is my personal thoughts, and it's public, which is really strange. But I think hope that you can take away from this a little bit. This is why I guess I'm speaking. If you come to YouTube, you get my very selfish, self-centered thoughts that are uncensored. But this is what I'm saying. Hoping that you can take away from this. There are arenas in which you right there excel. There are. Everyone has them. Maybe you're a good painter. Maybe you're a good writer. Maybe you're really good at networking, at talking, crack whatever it is. You're really good at cracking jokes. And I think that one of the reasons people get depressed is because they don't acknowledge or they compare that to someone else who's better, so they don't recognize that's a place that they have a strength in. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to advise you. I'm going to tell you. Just be very honest with yourself. Discover the arenas in your life where you have strengths. And I'm telling you, don't compare them to someone that you consider stronger. Just find them in your own life. Do not compare and go, here are some of my strengths. You don't have to identify all of them. You can identify 2 or 3 of them. And it can be random. It can be always finding Waldo and where's that Waldo thing. It can be I can identify birds by their sound. I can tell when someone's walking down the hallway who it is. What it can be random, but start identifying what those strengths are, and then look at those strengths and do not compare them to someone else because that's the way for you to defeat yourself. Right? Just see these things that you're very strong in, that you do very well at. Start thinking of ways that you can capitalize on them, that you can make them work for you. Excuse me, I burped. Make them work for you. And so my thought is, I had a lot of fun doing that thing, and I think I'm going to do more of that, like online Facebook show that I did just for my friends. It was really my friends and family. My mom thought it was great. I know that sounds funny, but I love my mom, and so to get that feedback, I'm like, I'm going to do that for my mom. It's wonderful. So find where your strengths are. Why do we make things hard on ourselves? So here's what I've identified are some of my strengths. I'm very strong on social media. I can do a lot of good stuff on social media. I'm very strong with content, right? With creating memes and all. That's the thing is I make diverse content. I can make tests, I can make memes, I can make videos, I can make cartoons. I diversify my content, not just one thing. And I think one of my strengths is as a teacher. Like I've been told I'm a good leader, and I'm like, I don't really go, I want to be a leader. I just want to create something. And so sometimes that's a collaborative process and you have to lead a group of people. But my goal is not to get that crown or that whatever special. I don't want to be like I'm not looking to be a leader. I'm just looking to create art, and sometimes that's a collaborative process. Um, so but I've always been told my whole life, you are a great teacher. My whole life, ever since I've been a little kid, wow, you're really good at simplifying that down. You explain that better than other people have. I'm like, I don't know why I've had that ability. I don't know why I do that. So those are my strengths. So I'm thinking social media, creating content, teaching. If those are my strengths, instead of going to YouTube to teach knitting or go to YouTube to, I don't know, go to where I'm strong. Go to Facebook where I'm getting a lot of responses. Um, diversify my content, and it was literally me just playing around and be a teacher. So here's another epiphany that I had recently too, or it's something I've been analyzing. And here's like insight for anybody that's watching that wants to get some insight and manipulate me later. Sure, you probably can. When I create a project or when I'm doing something, I have the propensity to bring someone on board with me. Like if I have a really good idea, I go, oh, I'm going to do that with Monica, or oh, I'm going to do that with my friend David Elliott, or my friend Corey back home probably should jump in on that. Whenever I have an opportunity or something I think is a good idea, I instantly try to draw people. Now that's like bolstering yourself. That's like creating a powerful. It's not a bad trait in all things. It's not. What this thing has shown me is that I think sometimes I do that because I don't believe in myself. I think the reason I pull other people on board is like, well, I can't be successful, but maybe this other person will be successful for me. Or I don't believe in myself enough to be attractive or funny or engaged. When I say attractive, I don't mean like physically attractive. Because look at this. This is borderline gorgeous. But when I say attractive, what I mean is, oh God, borderline gorgeous is the name of my new biography. No, but when I say attractive, what I mean is like when you're scrolling, what are you attracted to? You stop and look at that content. That's what I mean. So, but I think that I look and I go, I don't think I'm attracted. And then when I was doing this thing, I was riffing. I was making random stuff up. I was I was in the moment. Oh my God, I'm gonna have an epiphany. I was really in the moment. I wasn't editing myself. I wasn't judging myself. I was responding to what people were saying. I was in the moment, which is what improv teaches us all the time. Don't don't have these predisposed expectations and then be disappointed or comparative to what the actual results were versus to what you wanted to happen. I heard this wonderful quote, or not quote, theory the other day, that nostalgia is the most destructive form of comparison. That we look at, like, if I go, oh, Star Wars original, if I look at randomly pulled out, even though it's like all over the place in my shirt, if I look at like, oh, Star Wars original trilogy was amazing, the new Solo movie is not as good, and it's one of the most destructive because one of the reasons that Star Wars was really fun at that time was because of my mind frame as a child, but also the culture of the world at the time. That the Solo movie might be amazing for someone in their age in this culture of the time, right? So nostalgia also makes you look on stuff with rose-colored glasses. I love Legos. Hello, I love Legos. And so when I have Legos, I'm like, oh, nostalgia, the childhood and everything. But maybe it's not, it's about being in the moment here now. It's not about the nostalgia of the childhood. So why do we make things hard on ourselves? And then I think I want to end with this thought that I've heard several times. Um, I have gone through depression. Like I have gone through depression, and I've gone through really harsh depressions or self-destructive stuff. You know, but I don't deal with depression on an ongoing basis. It's not a daily battle. It's phasic, where it comes in phases. Like 2 years, nothing, and then for like 2 months, bam, and it hits me hard, right? Um, so it comes very infrequently. But one thing I think of is that sometimes when we're depressed, it's because we defend our depression. Like we know steps we can do to become not to help ourselves. Exercise, more sun, vitamin D, affirmations in the mirror. We know that these things help. Eat healthy. We know talk to people that are supportive and don't have toxic people in your lives. We know that these steps are healthy, but what we do is we defend our depression because our depression feels familiar. So we close the windows. So we talk to that person that's just as jacked up as we are to give ourselves validations for being jacked up. So we eat, I do that. I eat my feelings sometimes. Um, but I think that almost fake it till you make it. Like sometimes do those other things because they do make you feel better. It's crazy, but it does work. Some of those things, and find what works for you. Meditation, working out. Working out is very vague. Is it running? Is it lifting weights? Is it yoga? Is it whatever? See a therapist. Therapy should be demystified. Therapy is wonderful. Talk to people that build you up. Talk to people that make you buoyant. That's what you should do. So that's what I think. A lot of times we defend our depression. But here's what I think. Here's what I want to end on because this does resonate with me. It takes just as much energy to build yourself up as it does to tear yourself down. So when I'm in my depressive, destructive cycles, I'll go, nobody likes me. I'm not successful. For my age, I don't own a home. I'm not making thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm being comparative, right? And I'm tearing myself down. And it's something I'm not saying that everyone. It's something I can't control, and people can't control it either. But that deletes my energy supply, my patience, my energy to do other things, my focus, things of that stuff, right? And so although it that stuff comes instinctually, what it does is it attacks your energy level, it attacks your positivity, and it makes you sleepy, tired, lethargic, negative. So although the effort there is small, the effect is huge. So it takes just as much energy, meaning it's like an infection that just eats all that energy. To build yourself up does take a lot more energy, and the effects are small. But it's the same amount, and I'd rather have energy that builds myself up and makes me better, even if it feels a little fake at times, because that's the energy I'm talking about. That's the energy that goes forward. If I look in the mirror and I do Ho'oponopono, like which is I wrote it down. It's I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, which is the Hawaiian form of meditation that I just learned about. Um, but if I do that, it's going to feel a little weird at first, or even just the idea of it sounds weird. But when you do it, it's like, oh, this is not weird at all. But it's that energy, it's that risk to be happy, to be happier, right? Happy is not a destination and then you're done. It's not happily ever after in movies. It's like happy is a process. And then you experience it in the process. And I found the thing that works the most to make me happy is helping other people. Is if I do something it's a more of a lasting phenomenon. But that's what I wanted to do.